Hey, this is Michelle, and you're listening to Words with Michelle, the podcast, a show where I sit down and have conversations with influencers on a range of topics, anything from natural hair, employment, discrimination, food, relationships, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you want to send me an email, hit me up at michelle@wordsmichelle.com. Thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Words with Michelle, the podcast. For the last week of Black History Month, I wanted to publish a show that I call a Black History Minute. It's where I shine a spotlight on a changemaker from the past. For this episode, I'll be speaking with Dr. John Steckley, who is a Canadian scholar and has taught at Humber College for over 30 years, and recently wrote a book about Sophia B. Jones, the first Black Canadian female doctor. In this episode, Dr. John gives a bit of history about Sophia Jones's family, and then he begins his talk about her journey to becoming a Canadian inspiration. So if you're ready to learn a bit about Canadian history, stay tuned to this short but informative episode. I start off the show asking Dr. John to introduce himself. Thanks for being on the show, Dr. John. So I just want to say thank you for choosing to be on my podcast and sharing all your information about Sophia B. Jones. I am looking forward to it. So I just want to say thank you for being on the show. Okay.
No problem.
And I also would like you to just give us introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know a little bit about you.
My name's John Steckley, and I taught at Humber College for about 30 years. I have a PhD in education. Well, a short form for what I am, I'm a writer, and I love to write. Every week I write short stories, and I like to learn. And for me, I learn when I write. When I start working on things, I start learning a lot. Anyway, that's a short introduction.
Oh, it's great. Look, I love the fact that you said you write every week. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's I want to do that. I want to aspire to that. So again, it's a pleasure to have you on. So I just want to start it off. What prompted you to research Sophia B. Jones? Like, what prompted this? I guess discovery. To be quite honest, I guess it is discovery. Like, what prompted you to document?
So I wanted to find out who the first Canadian Black female doctor was, and I thought it'd be easy because I just assumed it was going to be easy, but it wasn't. It was quite difficult to find her. She's not a sort of established figure in the academic world, and I just kept looking and looking and looking, and then I found her. But I wasn't, I wanted to find out more about her, because it seemed like an interesting story. Here's the first Black Canadian woman to become a doctor. She must have an interesting story. And turns out she does. So what I decided to do is, maybe I'll write an article about her. So that people know. And I published an article on her last year, but it started to grow when I started to learn about her family as well. Her grandfather, who was a slave in North Carolina, and on Sundays he shoed horses, and with the money he earned through that, and there are different accounts of how much it was, but it was well over $1,000. And this is the 19th century. He paid for the freedom of his family. Mm-hmm. And that just blew me away, and how long he must have worked to do that. So they were able to leave North Carolina and go to a freer place. And that was beautiful for me. And then found out about her father, who was a gunsmith. He was an award-winning gunsmith. He made guns, particularly pistols and like derringers. And I read a story which really kind of bothered me. In the 19th century, the then Prince of Wales, who would later become king, he heard about the father, and his and wanted guns from him, and so what happened was it was agreed that he would receive several guns, and that seemed all right. That seemed okay. But when the people in Chatham, where he lived and where Sophia lived, there was an opposition to that. So here we have the prince coming all the way, like he went out of his way to get these guns, and he was told, he took the train, he was told at the train station that, quote, they had been contaminated.
Oh, okay.
And so he didn't take the guns. He didn't get the guns.
Oh.
It was an amazing insult,
Mm-hmm.
Here was, this great gunsmith, and there it went, right? So that was another story. I figured I got to tell this story too.
Mm-hmm.
And Sophia alone was just amazing, but her sisters were too. She had 3 sisters. One of them, Anna Holland Jones, she went to be a teacher in Wilberforce, which was the oldest black university at the time in Ohio, and she was the first black teacher they had there. She was one of the founders of the NAACP.
Oh, nice.
And a founder of the Kansas City Colored Women's League. So she, wow. And she was amazing. And another sister, Frederica Florence Jones, taught in 5 different states. And the third sister, Emily Priscilla Jones, she was a teacher as well. So all 4 women, in a way, became teachers. Sophia, of course, taught nursing, and she was a founder of the nursing program at Spelman College.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first black faculty there. This is in Atlanta. See, Sophia Jones thing really opened up. I mean, she was a major figure in the U.S., and she was born and raised in Chatham, and I wish she'd stayed, and it had been she had a role model. I don't know, you probably know Dr. Anderson Ruffin Abbott.
No, I don't know. Who's that?
Oh, he was a black doctor. He graduated from the University of Toronto in 1861, and he practiced medicine in Chatham, and then he eventually ended up in Toronto. But he was an influence. I mean, because he would have been there as a doctor when she was growing up. And
okay.
he went to University of Toronto, so I figured, okay, that's why she wanted to go to the University of Toronto, because a role model of hers did that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But the Sophia Jones, and she goes to the University of Michigan, accepted in 1880, the first black woman to graduate from that university in that program in 1885. And still today there's a lectureship in her name. Unfortunately, it's a lectureship on infectious diseases, but I wouldn't want to be remembered like that. But anyway,
okay.
And also there's a fellowship along with the first black male to become a doctor in that program. There's a fellowship for black students.
Nice.
In their name.
I can't imagine what life was like for them, like being in school and also practicing medicine. That must have been
Oh yeah, it was.
Because it's hard now,
It,
so I can't imagine what it would be like 200 years ago.
yeah, yeah. When you think about it,
Yeah, that's the first thing
the
I thought of.
obstacles they had to overcome.
Yeah, it's crazy. You were saying before, and I kind of wanted to get back to that. You were saying that it was
Okay,
difficult to get information about her. Why was it so difficult? Why was it so difficult to get information about
I
her?
yeah, I didn't get it. I thought, okay, I'll spend an hour or so and find out. And there was nobody nobody had it written down that I could find. Like I went to source after source after source, and of firsts, and I couldn't find her. I couldn't find her at all. And then I can't remember now how I did, but once I found out her name, a couple people had written about her. I think they were all Americans, but she wasn't really known in Canada.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
there is the Black Mecca Museum in Chatham, and they have in their in the one room they have a number of things from the family. And Chatham, because it was sort of the northern extension of the Underground Railroad,
Yeah.
it was a very important place.
Good.
And you can see that in a number of different ways. It was an important place, and it's known, it's felt there. You felt going into that museum, I was just, once I got a couple of names and a couple of places, things just started appearing. She was such a heroine. I mean, what she did in the States in terms of education, nursing, and all that kind of thing, she was just phenomenal. She was a first.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see her story, like to be either like to see in like a documentary or something. That may be something to think about because we it's good to uncover the first, like I mean the first doctor, like
Yes.
because I can't imagine like I was saying before, I can't imagine what her day was like studying and then also becoming a doctor or because it's like. I know what it's like today. I've done shows on racism in the medical field. So I know what it's
Yeah.
like in 2023, 2024. And I can't
Yeah.
imagine what life would have been like over 150 years ago doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. It just makes you think, wow.
It must have been
you know.
it must have been hard. You must really love it and it's your calling, it's your gift because I'm sure that it was really challenging for her.
Yep.
So thank you for for providing us with all this information. Where can we get your book? First of all, tell us the title and then say where we can get your book.
Okay. The title is Sophia B. Jones, the first Canadian black woman to become a doctor, her trials and triumphs, and those of her family.
Perfect. Great. And where can we get it? Where can we get this book?
The publisher is Rocks Mills Press.
Can we get it online though? Can we purchase it, say,
Yeah,
Amazon?
I think if you I think if you go to Amazon, you should be able to get it.
Before I ended the show, I asked Dr. John to share with us a few lasting words.
I mean, he was just born and raised in Canada, and she's a hero, and she had to leave us to live her heroic life.
It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you did this. I'm very, very pleased by that.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message or share your thoughts on social media on my Instagram page at WordsWMichelle, on TikTok at Words with Michelle, and my YouTube channel at Words with Michelle. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a message on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so more listeners can find the show. Until next time, bye.